How you doing, guys? Big Mac Down School here today, back once again with another Mortal Realms video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look through the pages of issue 12. Before we get started, I just want to say a massive thank you to Splinter. What are the levels of my Patreon? He's a patron of mine, and he's sponsoring this video, so he's basically bought the issue 12 of Mortal Realms magazine for me, so I can cover it in this video. He is an Immortal sponsor level pledger, and that is where you can basically pay for a magazine for me, so I can cover it on the channel. If you would like to donate to the channel to enable me to get better lighting, better microphone setup and stuff like that going forward, multi-camera maybe in the future, we'll see, then you can do so by following the link in the description below to my Patreon account, and you can pledge at 3 tiers at the minute, a $1 tier, a $5 tier or a $12 tier. The $12 tier is the Immortal sponsor tier. That is what Splinter has done, pledged at that tier. Not just once though, but twice, 2 times every month he pledges at that tier. He's doubled his pledge. So generous of his sponsoring another video in the coming weeks. Back onto the issue. Here's what you came for, here's what Splinter's paying for. So the issue 12 of Mortal Realms magazine comes with a Knights-Questor. The Knights-Questor is £17.50 from Games Workshop, and it's a $7.99 magazine, so you're saving what, like £9.51? It's a great saving. It's more than a 50% saving. I don't think you can argue with issues like this. They're awesome, absolutely awesome savings, and yeah, well, you can argue actually. You can argue that this little bit of plastic isn't really worth that monetarily, but that's what GW charge for it. You're not going to find it much cheaper from other places. You're not going to find it this cheap from other places. You might get a bargain on eBay every now and again, but not very often. But yeah, anyway, what else is in the issue? The Hallowed Knights Stormhost and new rules for the playthrough. That seems to be on the front of every cover at the minute, new rules for the playthrough. But yeah, we'll get to that when we come to it. And onto the first page. But before the first page, actually, we've got this letter. Now, this letter is just telling us, it's really good communication from Hatchet, which I'm really impressed by. Because of the current global situation with the pandemic that's going on. This is for UK customers only, this letter at the minute. But basically there's going to be some delays in distribution in the coming weeks. Now, that's something that subscribers who get it delivered once a month will be used to already. But people like me who buy the magazine in a shop and get it ordered specifically into a shop for them, people like me, they're not used to this. So instead of releasing an issue every week, what they're going to do at the minute, to ensure they keep the supply steady, I think, and to ensure people aren't going out of the house unnecessarily and things like that, instead of your magazine coming into the shops once a week, it's going to come once every fortnight now for the next 4 issues. That could change going forward, so it could be the next 8 issues if we stay in a state of lockdown in the UK, or it could revert back to normal after the next 4 issues. So issue 12 we're on at the minute, issue 13 won't come for another 2 weeks. I might put another video up relating to Mortal Realms next week. There's content I could be doing for sure, but it's going to be much shorter content than this. But we'll see. Just check back next Wednesday. Press the bell button if you want to be alerted when a video goes live on my channel. Anyway, on to the first page. So, the first page is about Stormcast Eternal's Knights-Questor, which is the model that comes with this issue. The warriors are assigned to a quest by Sigmar himself, so the God King Sigmar sat on his mighty throne, surveying the lands he rules. He says to this little fella, "Hey little fella, can you go and get me this this magazine from the shops?" And then that's the quest that Knights-Questor is sent out on. So they're sent out to get the magazine from the shops and then bring it back to him, and they don't have to listen to orders from any other Stormcast or anything on the way there, unless that other Stormcast is also wanting to get to that shop, and then he can tag along with that Stormhost and stuff. Clearly I'm making fun of this whole idea, but they strike out alone to complete a task and seek the destiny chosen for them. Whatever their task, it rules them completely. So like I said, there's no commander. They have no commanders, essentially. They will fight alongside Stormhosts if their goals align. But it's that's why you'll see them on the battlefield, and that's why we've got a miniature for them to use in games. But Knights-Questor continued on the next page. They are agents of Sigmar himself, and they'll fight alongside a Stormhost if their goals align, like I said. It's a good way, this model I think is a good way to add a narrative twist to your games. So, for example, if you've got a Knight-Questor in your force, or Questor rather, in your force, you could say he's tasked, or she is tasked with slaying a particular enemy character, an enemy leader, or capturing a certain objective on the battlefield. That could be the aim of the game, that could be the mission you play. But, of course, we're not that far into the rules yet, so think about that for the future. On to the next page, we get Chronicles of Tara Part 2. Nagash returns to the realms with vengeance in mind. And this is all happening now in the Age of Sigmar. So we've had the Age of Myth and the Age of Chaos, now it's the Age of Sigmar. The Battle of Ossia. In the Age of Sigmar, the Stormcast Eternals arrive throughout Shyish. They're sent down by Sigmar to fight the forces of Chaos, who at the time were dominating the mortal realms. The Night Haunts and the Undead Legions rise from the graves to fight off the Chaos forces also, and some older allies of ages gone by start fighting alongside each other again. So the Undead Legions start fighting alongside the Stormcasts and the Legions of Order, the forces of Order. So they start fighting side by side to rid the lands, the mortal realms, of Chaos, and in particular Shyish for the Undead Legions. And the Chaos strongholds are torn down by the likes of the Mortarchs and other forces of Nagash and Sigmar. I just pick out the malign portents, gods and wizards that have the ability to see future events. They start getting visions dominated by Nagash's plan. Nagash's great plans coming to fruition, and his great plan is for domination, not just of Shyish, but of all of the mortal realms. And many armies rush to Shyish to prevent this unfolding as planned, and then that leads to the Necroquake happening, which I've touched on in previous episodes, so I won't go into too much detail there. The next page details the Necroquake and the rise of Lady Olinda, various battles and conflicts, and the Briar Queen is unleashed by Nagash. Then on to the next page we get the Hallowed Knights. Amongst the most zealous of the Stormhosts, it's funny how each time we learn about a new Stormhost, they're always the most zealous, they're always the most ordered, they're always the most tactically minded. They only ever talk about how they're good, they never talk about how they're bad. And I think for me, that's what I find lacking a little bit in some of the Age of Sigmar lore. But as we learn more about it through this magazine, I'm hoping there'll be something else that draws me to the lore, because the characters and the forces in my mind are pretty one-dimensional. But yeah, I'm hoping in future issues I'll learn more and get a bit more excited about Age of Sigmar. But yeah, they're known to take trophies from Chaos followers. So the finger bones of someone who worships Nurgle or something like that, and they strap it to their armour as like a little talisman. And basically, if they can resist the temptation and the corruption that this trophy is emitting, then it proves their purity. They see each reforging as a great honour as well, so every time they reforge it's another great honour. They're getting closer to what it is to be like Sigmar himself. And after many reforgings, they may have a stormcloud halo or emit light from the seams in their armour as their inner radiance leaks out. And then on to the next page, we get Into the Labyrinth, a short story. A Knight-Questor Wayland Lightbearer takes on the servants of Zeech to gain entry into a silver tower. I've touched on Silver Towers in the past in Conquest videos, so maybe check out some of my Conquest videos if you want more information about that. I won't go into too much detail, but a Silver Tower is basically ruled over by a wizard of Tzeentch, basically. And Tzeentch is like a scheming god, and his followers are all scheming and deceitful, and weaver of fates, and they're all about misdirection and magic and stuff like that. And a Silver Tower is like a labyrinth inside. Things aren't always what they seem, and what this Wailing Lightbearer seeks in the Silver Tower, you can only assume is the keeper of the Silver Tower, the ruler of the Silver Tower, in order to slay him, probably, or her, but we don't know. It doesn't go into too much detail, but I'll let you read that short story yourself. It's an interesting one, but I didn't get too excited by it, to be honest. Some of the previous short stories I've been quite engrossed with, and then by the time I get to the end of it on the second page, it's like, oh, I wish that was longer. But this one, I wasn't too excited by it, to be honest. Don't know why. Anyway, how to build and how to paint. They're both 2 pages long, these, and you get some nicely painted tabletop level miniature at the end. Not some, but one. A nicely painted tabletop level miniature at the end. It was quite surprising that the paint guide was only 2 pages. But one thing I said about Conquest in the early issues was they were just going over the same things over and over again in the first few issues of Conquest, the first, like, say, 15 issues, going over the same things over and over again. And it seems that Hatchet have listened to feedback, or possibly whoever actually produces what's the content of the magazines, seems like they've listened to feedback and they've reduced that content, so we can just refer to previous issues, really, if we want any more detail on any more close-ups on what it should look like once we've dry brushed the gold on, or dry brushed the silver onto the gold and stuff like that. We can refer to previous issues. So we only get 2 pages of a paint guide, which I was quite, at the end of the day, quite impressed with, but surprised with as well. And then it's on to Clash of Heroes. So this is the playthrough scenario. Auric Ravenscar and Xandria Azurbal have located an arcane stave infused with death magic, and it's hidden within a crumbling tomb. So as they approach the tomb, all of a sudden they're ambushed. The ghostly forms of the Briar Queen and a Tomb Banshee appear before them and bar their path to entry. In this playthrough we are reminded of everything we've learned so far in the playthroughs, and there's a few new extra rules, like the Ren values of weapons. So if a weapon is particularly, let's say you've got a particularly sharp sword, it might have a Ren value of -1. And what that does, it makes it harder for you to make a saving throw. So it takes 1 off the dice that you roll as your saving throw. Let's say you have an armor save of 3+, and you roll a 3. But because my sword has a Ren value of -1, you actually need a 4 instead of a 3. Because that 3 that you rolled becomes a 2. So your armor save would fail then. And it also talks about rules like Ethereal, which is a rule for the Nighthaunts, so that means it basically negates any Ren value of the weapons that the Stormcasts have. So because they're ethereal, the ghostly forms, quite often, you know, a swing of a Stormcast sword will just pass straight through a Nighthaunt model, because they're gas, they're plasma, they're not really in reality. They're not a solid life form, so you can't always be guaranteed that your weapon will wound them, and therefore they don't get their armor save negated, basically. Don't always think of it as an armor save, that's the thing to remember. It can become quite abstract at sometimes wargaming, so it might be called an armor save or a saving throw, but it's not necessarily an armor save, which is what I'm used to calling it from 40k. But anyway, on to the coming to the Mortal Realms, the back page. We get a nice preview of what's coming in the next 2 weeks of Mortal Realms. Issue 13 coming in 2 weeks' time. We are getting Abaddon Black, Mechanicus Standard Grey, and a medium dry brush. So we're going to be painting some black, I think, in that issue, and probably dry brushing it with the Mechanicus Standard Grey. Yeah, so that's one thing to look forward to. It's not an amazing value issue, but you're getting more paints and you're getting more paint on your models. And then on to issue 40, we are getting new Nighton Heroes. I love these models. These are the Dreadblade Harrows. They're like ghostly horses, ghostly cavalry. These are some of the models I was looking forward to with my plan to convert some of the Nighton models into 40k setting as Mechanicus models. And handily, there are some Mechanicus cavalry units coming out in the not too distant future with the Machine War game, although that's also been put on hold because GW's distribution's completely shut down in the UK as well. So I won't go into too much detail about that, but I'm down a Gaskell. That's all you need to know. Yeah, so fantastic models. I love these models, like I said. That's all I've got for you this week, guys. Don't forget to check out the link below to my Patreon 2 weeks before we're going to get issue 13. So check back next week though for more Mortal Realms content, or a video of some sort. Anyway, it's probably going to be the Mortal Realms content. Yeah, that's it. And I'll see you on the battlefield.